Hello, what's up guys? This is Jouni Juurila from Floorball Made Simple, and today we're going to present to you a video that focuses on game opening tactics and different variations you can use in your team as a coach or a lineup or as a singular player in the team. But now, let's go. There are many different approaches and ways to describe what is game opening, and there are way more complicated ways to put it, but I think that this is the beef right over here. In Finland, coaches tend to say that there are those moments of controlled game opening moments, and then the moments from game opening when you are approaching the offensive zone and you attempt to score are called long direct attacks. But this version right here is enough for me. So the first moment of opening up the game in the middle zone is controlling the ball. And the second alternative is to score from it. Right? So direct scoring or maintaining control of the ball. What are the minimum requirements on game opening then? Well, at first, your team does not want to lose the ball in the middle zone area because that will create the worst turnovers possible. So first and the most important minimum requirement is to make such fluid and clear principles on the team play and individual decisions with a risk factor low enough that you don't lose the ball in the middle zone area, because the worst turnovers on floorball happen precisely from middle zone possession losses. Second, at least to take breathers with the ball, which means that at least it is really hard to go full speed from one side of the court to another and to another and to another. So it is beneficial to take some breathers with the ball as well, so you will have more force to the other attacks later on. At third, defending with the ball. This is a Finnish term that some foreign people hate, and I kind of understand that, but it is an essential tool that you need to have if you want to win good games. So, defending with the ball means lowering the tempo of the game. So, sometimes if the game is too freely flowing all over the place, you want to lower the tempo and gain control of the play that way. It's a tool to keep the best players of the opposition out of the ball. By doing that, if they do not have the ball, they cannot attack. Then it is about killing the momentum that the opposition is attempting to have. And if the opponent has scored a couple of times and they're getting a huge momentum, hold the ball for 4 minutes and that momentum disappears. And at the fourth place, you need to at least to progress into the offensive zone. If you are not able to contribute any threat to score from that game opening side, you need to at least hit the ball to the offensive zone and then create some scoring threat from there. But in the end, if your game opening phases will not create anything, almost to nothing threat on the XG charts and any contribution stats, that's a bad situation. You need to be able to pose threat from game opening moments as well. We have covered this subject earlier in earlier videos, but let's go through it again. So how can you create threat to score from game opening or middle zone offense phase? Well, at first, deep passes or those vertical passes to the depth and then driving with the ball into the core areas of the field. You may find cutting passes to free players after driving from the deep areas. You might want to turn to the end board side towards the spaces behind the goal and then either drive towards the net or find free players from that turning motion to the corner side. You might also find second and third waves of players coming to the goal scoring areas after receiving the ball in the deep areas. Second one is direct shots from the wide side pockets, which means that one ball carrier has carried the ball forward from the wide side pocket and is attempting to shoot right away from there. At least you will get some rebounds and deflection balls near the net, and if you have a tremendous shot, you can either score or even score from those moments as well. Then there are those progressive or cutting passes from the wide side pockets from the width. So those can be diagonal long passes, horizontal long passes, or diagonal or horizontal short passes that go to the center. So you need to be able to pass from that wide side pocket to whole variety of different spaces with different distance of passes. And then driving to the core from the wide side pockets. Sometimes you do not have to pass to anybody. You just take the ball from the wide side pocket and then drive towards the net diagonally. Using all the spaces in the field, the depth, width, central areas and the mid-deep spaces is really important if you want to pose a threat on that game opening side. This is also a very important factor on posing a threat from build-up phase or the game opening phase. And it means that you need to have different kind of speeds and paces that you are moving around the field as a unit, and you need to be able to shift between these speeds. So nevertheless, what are your principles and tactics you are trying to do there as a unit? Those are very important as well, but the speed, you need to shift the speed in an unpredictable way to be a real threat. And in many sports, in hockey, basketball, football or soccer, and in floorball, if you can change between these rhythms, you will be way more dangerous. And the best teams have been always known in every sport that they can first begin the same principle or set play or anything with a lower pace and then just out of the blue shift it to the top speed. So try to get all of these 4 rhythms and speeds into your play and you will be able to contribute more on scoring. Then to the most basic concepts to have in your tactical toolbank in the game opening phase. You need to have the right amount of width, central area, support, those middle deep areas and deep area directions in the play that fit to your team and your playing system, but all of these directions need to be in the play. You need to be able to utilize those wide side pockets because those usually have the most space in the field, so try to progress and create continuity and threat through those. You need to be able to create some space to the field, so you empty a space. And then you need to be able to use the space by an attacker without the ball filling the space or the player with the ball carrying into it. So like any other team sports, this is about emptying a space and then filling it. And especially controlling and manipulating those spaces in the wide side pockets, that can create huge possibilities for your team and you need to be able to master those. You need to be able to create advantages into those momentary 1-versus-1 situations in the field, and those momentary advantages mean that you have an individual 1-versus-1 advantage in the situation. That could be a speed advantage, so your player is moving with a faster speed compared to the player that's coming to defend him or her. You have a better movement direction than the defender, you have a better body positioning than the defender, or you can have even a ability advantage, like you have a fast player on the ball attacking against a slow player, or you might have a big and strong player versus a small and weak player, and etc. Supporting movements towards opponent's end is a really important thing, that you have those players moving without the ball, especially without the ball, towards the opposing team's end. That creates threat by itself. And having some rotations, so the starting point, how you position the players in the first moment, is not enough. You need to have rotations that make your whole squad flow and rotate around the pitch. What are rotations then? Rotations are combined movements of the whole unit in the field at the same time. It means basically that you have few players that start move around the pitch, and you fill and utilize those certain spaces, and those are pre-planned. It doesn't have to be pre-planned by the coach. The players can do it as well, but you need to have clear idea of how you're going to fill the spaces once a singular player leaves his or her space. One player moves out of their space and positioning, and others fill that gap that is created. There is a huge possibility to create different kind of rotations, like hundreds of those, and you can utilize all of them. It might be something like this. Player moves out from their space without the ball or with the ball, and another one fills the same space where they left. Or a player moves out from their space, and then another fills the opposite side space, and somebody else fills the space where you left. So there is a bunch of variations on how to do that, and we will look at different variations a little later on in the video. Rotations can happen through any player's movements. And this is a good way to manipulate the opponent's formation, create marking errors, and to make tracking of your team's players harder for the defending team. And it is also a very good way to get your players into open blade situations where they move into another space, and now they have a free blade opposed to having a pressure on the blade direct. And this is a north and south rotation, which is very basic one in floorball. It is like not 15 years old concept, but almost more than 10 years old concept in floorball. And yet again, about all rotations, not any one starting point where you position the players in the first moment will work these days. You need some rotations in addition to that. And rotations can happen in different directions or from different directions. And in this picture, the lowest player on the pitch moves to the north of the field, and one from the depth moves south from the field. So north and south. By pumping up the field and unit that way, you will get some movement momentum, and you will force the opposing team to move as well. And then there are those diagonal rotations that are a hot take in today's floorball, and it is a concept that I have recognized for a few years now, but especially in this season and the previous season, the top teams have been increasing these actions by large margins.
Här är André Andersson, vilken passning, och det är 2-0!
And there we saw how it works in the clip. So in the clip, player from the right wide side from the pitch moved to the direction of the left wide side pocket, and thus the player was able to get an open blade situation. And the advantages that you can get by acting like this is to get into those open blade situations, get the movement advantage opposed to the defenders, get a speed advantage against them, and then create marking errors. And these diagonal rotations are a really simple and effective tool to get good game opening situations. And here there is just another example of how those rotations can occur in the field. Personally, I think that there is no singular one absolute truth on how you need to do those. Some coaches have a more fixed idea on that, but I think that if you can get some movement and drill more space into the field, it doesn't really matter that what you're using, but the players and the squad needs to know what you're using, but there is multiple ways. In this version, the player from the left side cuts without the ball towards the center, so space into that left-hand side wide pocket increases, and the player from the same side deep areas fills to that pocket, and there you will have eventually a open blade situation. And now in this version you will see a situation where the left-hand side player from the left pocket has cutted without the ball towards the center, and player from depth from the opposite side, depth, in regard of where the first player began the movement, fills lower down the pitch. So this means that even though the left hand side pocket was the one that was emptied, now the filler from depth comes to the right hand side pocket, which means that all the other players lower on the pitch can then use the space that has been emptied by that first movement. So this is way more complex, but works well if you train this to work well. And never this, all in same half court. Why I'm putting this in a very rough manner, this is just load of crap. You should never do this, because I think that if you position all the 5 players to the same side of the pitch, that will only have some cons to you. Not any pros in this way to attack. Because there will be no continuity towards depth, because you will not have any receiving player on the depth side. All players are under pressure, because this is a super hard way to open the game and very easy to press and defend against. There is no space in the wide side pockets. Even if you would be able to play the ball to the opposite side pocket, there is no room to move and make any magic out of that. And as I said, pressuring your team will be really easy for the opposing team. And then utilizing those half-deep spaces on the field. We covered this subject earlier, and when we showed the video about the SSL hot takes and trends in that league right now, there was many clips about this, and you will see one right here, just to remind you of that.
Björk-formationen inne igen.
Harry Eriksson! André Andersson. Oj, vilken passning till bollen!
So, like you saw in those clips, this is a really good way to use the overload in those deep areas. Because if you position the players in the starting moments in this way, that you have 3 players in those mid-deep or half-deep spaces, there are only 2 defenders marking those. So they need to pick up 2 of those, but one is without a doubt left unmarked. And then it's just about finding those players with different kind of combinations and passes, but utilize that 3 versus 2 overload in that mid-deep area and try to find own ways for your team how to utilize this. If you can get on board with this trend right here for the next season, you will be among the first teams that are utilizing these in your league, and I can guarantee this. And in the beginning of this video, we mentioned that those cutting movements without the ball that pierce the center of the pitch are really important. These have been done over 10 years also right now, so that is really important, and you can still start to do this. These are still working very well, and many top teams are doing this. This basically means that when the ball is played to the width or wide side pocket, one player without the ball pierces through the central areas of the pitch in a movement direction where their face is facing the opposing team's goal, so they are moving forward on the pitch. There are many pros at doing game opening like this. Movement goes through multiple zones and channels that the defenders are marking, and many players need to react and shift the responsibility of who is marking that player. Player moving without the ball will gain movement momentum, and they are moving in a faster speed than the defenders defending them. Player can increase the range where they move in the field, so they will get into more versatile chances where they can work with the ball. So for example, you can get right side defenders to occupy left corners in the field. So they can, but like in every way to play, there are spaces where they operate. Negatives or hard points as well. Players left to open up the game are left by themselves for a moment, so that requires some skill level and daring to leave them there. And without proper readiness to receive the ball when you are running towards the depth, this is useless. So you need to be ready to receive the ball. This is another very trendy way and very relevant at these days to open the game like this. So you have a wide backline that starts to open the game, and then another of those or other of those starts to move without the ball towards the center line and pierce through the middle. There are many pros at playing like this. That movement without the ball can grab attention for up to 3 players for a moment. So 3 marking players need to take into account that movement. Defenders can get into the offensive play, which means also that they can add up to the range of motion how they move on the field. Defenders will gain momentum, so they are moving with high speed towards the opposing team's end, and your attackers, they must fill the lower spaces once a defender moves higher up the pitch, so your attackers can participate more on if there is no support for the defender that receives the wide pass before the other of those moves to the center. That might be tricky, so try to get some support for that player as well. And without a clear intention what you're trying to do with these movements, those movements and runs to the center might become a bit robotic, so you need to have an intention. This is a Finnish term, swimming with the ball to the middle, which basically means that a player with the ball carries to the middle part between the first line of pressure just to lure them in to the ball. When the players, both strikers, are lured into the ball, space in the wide pockets increases.
Ja maltilla pidetään sitten Laakso auttamassa Mäkiselle, Mäkinen, Ahola, Laakso, Kovanen.
So, as we saw in the video, that swimming to the middle has many benefits. And some of those benefits are that there will be more space in the wide side pockets, and the swimmer that moves to the center with the ball will gain some momentum, and they can receive the ball back higher up the pitch. So they will be able to leave their original position. Negatives, in the other hand, if they are playing only drop passes, when they are swimming to the center, they will not create any sort of direct threat on scoring. And it requires lots of skill and daring to move into such narrow positions. And as in the previous example, the player was swimming to the center from the central area. Now the player is, in this example, driving from the wide area. And the direction where the player is driving with the ball or swimming with the ball will increase and create different kind of options. And if you are this kind of swimming coach that likes the players to do these movements with the ball, try to get those movements active all around the pitch from different sides of the field, and fill the players back to the low areas from different positionings. Pros by driving to the center and swimming to the center by this manner are that the spaces will be increased in the wide side pockets. It is easier to find those diagonal progressive passes from this angle. And against a W4 check, this will force the both strikers to come towards the ball. The negative sides will be that this requires as well skill and daring to drive into those positionings with the ball, and if only drop passes are played, this is rather easy to press to the remaining players lower in the pitch. This version of creating space to the wide side pockets also relates to the ball carrying abilities, but the intention is a bit different. Sometimes you can create space to the wide side pockets just by carrying the ball sideways. So you're not driving with the ball in between the forwards and trying to get them squeezed, because that creates some space there. But you are only carrying the ball sideways, not diagonally, but sideways on the pitch, and thus you will attract the attention of those forwards as well, and you can play a rather easy pass to the side pocket. Pros of this is that carrier opens wider passing angles because you are carrying the ball to the central areas of the pitch, and you will have more wider vision and view to the field, and you have more passing options that way. Cons: carrying lane isn't open against every forecheck formation. It requires lots of skill and daring with the ball, and there is no balancing player below that player that drives to the center. That might be a bad thing in some cases, but it is also a good thing because there is no players backing up, so they are positioned somewhere higher up the pitch. So once you get those passes over, the players are positioned above you, and that is a good thing. Okay guys, that was it for today's video. And by the way, this video is a 2-episode series that will open many ways on how you can develop the game opening phase of your team. So this was the first one, and the next one will be published later on the week. So stay tuned and wait for that next video, and make sure to watch that one as well. If you like this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel and follow us on socials and share this to your mates. You have much of time to create new things in your game opening for the next season. But hey, thank you all. Bye.